Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Abby Hagyard. Just going to click on the little techie thing here. It's so exciting. For the longest time, when I started to do these videos, almost every week there would be some kind of a glitch somewhere right at the very beginning. And it would throw me off because, after you have been doing camera stuff for a while, not behind the camera, in front of the camera, you get this sense of, I'm all that in a bag of chips. And then the universe would say, well, not really. No, you're not. You're here by the grace of a whole lot of energies out there. So with all that said, I want to welcome you back. This is episode ABCAST 383. Good morning, Eddie. How wonderful to see you. I'm just saying that it's such a blessing that there isn't a weird immediate glitch right off the top, which means I may be inviting one later, but oh well. And I wanted to hop on today in this video to ask a question that everybody asks, although they don't really know how to say it out loud. It's from that movie Field of Dreams. If I build it, will they come? And of course, there was an interesting little hidden glitch in that movie that I want to talk about later, because everybody sort of thought that it's automatic. I build it, they come. No, no, there are steps in there. So anyway, before I begin, just for the people who are just joining us, once upon a time, a long time ago, I was a mom on television, and simultaneously, I would leave one studio and race across town and voice Care Bears and Teddy Ruxpin stuff, simultaneous in the same weeks. I also did morning drive radio because people kept asking, would you like to do this? And I would say yes. I didn't really realize that I was going to do them all at the same time, but there you are. So what has happened to all of us over a period of time is that how we do things has changed rather dramatically. And on that note, speaking of how we do things, very dear friend of mine walked me through. There's a technology you can use so that you can broadcast on several platforms, social media platforms at the same time. And when I had finally figured out how to get on LinkedIn, as well as my beloved Facebook and YouTube, and of course, Instagram, I started looking around in groups in LinkedIn, specifically targeting them. And I just have to tell you that yesterday I got a note from the organizers, the algorithm at LinkedIn, that last week alone, I had almost 1,400 looks at my 4 videos, because I had done a Sunday, my Tuesday, Thursday, and then another Sunday. So that's pretty remarkable when you consider that I wasn't thinking about doing that as recently as 4 or 5 months ago. So it is remarkable, as I said, how things change quickly without us realizing it. So with that in mind, when in the ebb and flow of any industry, the seasons change, and you put away your shorts and you bring out your long johns and your boots, and then there's a heat wave and you wonder why you put away your shorts and your flippers. But there is also a change in the way we automatically assume that things are going to unfold. And when all of a sudden there weren't any television productions, and there weren't any video productions, and there weren't any cartoon productions, because we had basically done all the productions that were in the pipeline, I realized that I didn't have any work. And so I went about becoming a professional writer, legitimately, seriously registered with a couple of agencies. And in the process of doing that, I realized that I could do more for my clients than simply take on their projects if I became a boutique publisher. So Publisher was born, and this is the 20th anniversary of Publisher. And what I do as a publisher is I basically find out what you really want, what the end game after the end game is for you. And then we reverse engineer the creative process so that you get where you want to go by the time you're done. A lot of people want a book just to be able to say, I'm a published author. A lot of people want a book to be able to give a legacy gift to family. A lot of people want something like a scrapbook. Everybody has a different reason for wanting a book. And so when you find that out, you dig down and you find out what they really want to say and why, we can get them closer to their happy ending once they've bought in, once they're in the boat. So the same rule applies with live entertainment. And I have always done this. I just never really talked about it. I have always tried to find out what it is people are missing, what they love to go and see, what they loved to go and see, and what somewhere in between those two present and past tenses went off the rails. What is it that they're missing now? And when I was talking to a couple of speakers agencies and a couple of event planning companies, because I'm putting my name out there now, I found myself saying the same thing over and over and over to these people, not repeatedly to the same guy. Well, good morning, Daniel. How nice to see you. What I found myself saying is the event isn't for the client. The event isn't for the planner. The event is for the people who come. So it makes sense to find out what they're looking for, what they would just absolutely love to have. And, when I was talking to them, they were saying, well, that's not really how we do this. I know. That's why we're having the conversation. Because when I came back from my working away time, I kind of left town so that I could really focus on the writing. When I came back 3 years ago now, I realized that a lot of this has gone by the wayside, that a lot of people aren't paying attention to what it is that people are craving, what it is, good morning, Freddie, what it is that people are missing. And with increasing habituated clutching, where's my phone? Clutching of their phones, people are spending less time paying attention to each other. Go out for dinner and you'll see people, beautiful people, lovely people, clever people, sitting across from each other, but not talking to each other. They're looking at their phones. I don't think I've ever taken my phone out of my pocket or my purse when I'm at dinner. If I have, it's been to mute it because I forgot to. Because I can look at my phone anytime. If I've gone to the trouble to put my pants on and face the front, get in the car, drive to the place, go in and order delicious food with people I love, why would I not be present for them? Why would I not bring me to the moment? And for that matter, what is lacking in me that they wouldn't bring them? And the answer is habit. We don't realize we're doing it. We don't realize that we have fallen into this crazy, crazy scenario, because the bottom line is life isn't a spectator sport. Life is participation. Life is connection, engagement, transformation. Life is more than survival. It's thrival, if that's even a word. It is digging in and finding out who we are to each other. Good morning, beautiful. Good morning, Miss Susan. How nice to see you. Life is not about checking out of our live connections in order to invest in our virtual ones. It's the other way around. Virtual is what we do when we can't get together. Virtual is plan B or C. So when I've been talking to these event planners and these speaking agencies, and I have said to them, I want to show you what my events look like. I want you to see what happens to the people who are with me. And I've been asked repeatedly that we'd like to see a reel of you speaking. And I said, well, I got 383 of those. You can watch any of them. What you want to see for the benefit of your agency is how excited, how much fun the audience is having. Nobody really noticed in high-end restaurants do not allow phones or tablets. Well, yes. Well, thank goodness. But it's crazy, isn't it, Daniel, that they had to make that a rule? It's like, at home, phones in a basket. Craziness. However, if that's what it takes to relearn, great. So what the speakers agencies have done is they have said, we're looking for people with credentials, because that's why people will pay the fee. Sure, that's why the corporation that's booking the speaker will pay the fee, because they're looking to say, we've got so-and-so. You know, when I do these fan events, when I get invited to do these Comic Cons and whatever, spokesperson things, celebrity things, people are using my box office quotient. They're saying, you know, star of this, star of that, star of the other, trained and worked with, famous now. That's good. However, that's entry level. What matters is, what are you missing? What are you missing? What are you craving? What will you just, you know, just drive the extra mile to see, to be part of, to connect with, to engage in? Because that's what I do. I reach out, I find out, I ask, and then I deliver. And I, you know, I have these pictures of the last event, and it was quite funny because I didn't know I was doing it. I mean, I knew what I was doing. I didn't realize the context I was doing it in. It was a Comic Con. And at these Comic Con events, if you're not familiar with them, they have contests, the people who dress up in the characters that they know and love. And then they have contests to see who's done the best job. And so I wanted to get a whole bunch of pictures with cosplayers. So I grabbed Gary Raish, my amazing cosplay photographer, and I said, come on, let's go on a hunt. Ellen Bond said, I'm right with you. And Gary Eastwood and Bank, my producer, said, let's do it. Carol Hayes said, let's go. So we were like an army invading. And I rushed out into the hall, and there was a lineup all the way around the hall. Of course, getting ready it was their turn to get up on the stage and take their pose and be interviewed by the MC, Matt Demers, Mr. Hollywood. And of course, it's always judged, and it's always judged by the previous winners. So I mean, I know this because I've done this. So Gary Raish said, listen, especially with cosplayers, you have to get permission to get a picture with them. And I said, got it. How many should I get in a shot? He said, 6. All right. So I rushed over to the last 6 and I said, grab a quick picture. Yeah, sure, Abby. I got in, got a picture. Next 6. And I worked my way up the line, up the line, up the line, keeping my eye on Matt, who's actually actively, he's got the microphone in his hand. He's running the contest. People are coming up, they're doing their thing. He's interviewing them, he's got a microphone. Never upstage the man with a microphone. Rule number 1. So I'm making sure I'm not in any way, except that I kind of am, because by the way, feather boa. Anyway, I get around and I see the 4 guys at the table, and I know them. I know them because they're regulars. And I snuck up to one of them and I said, can I grab a quick picture? And he said, yeah, sure. And so he nudged the guy, and they nudged the guy, and they nudged the guy, and they all got up and they all backed away. And we all posed. And my team of paparazzi took a few pictures. And I said, thanks, guys. Love you. And I ran away. And then as I'm leaving, Gary Swithenbank said, okay, you know, you got a lot of nerve. And I said, why? What did I do? And he said, well, they were judging. And I said, of course they're judging. It's a contest. He said, no. The people you just got your picture with, the 4 guys at the table, were the judges. And I said, I know that. He said, no, but they were actively judging. The contest was on. So here's what happened. Just in case we want to know if I can draw a crowd, I asked the judges if they would take a picture with me. And they said, yeah. And they kicked their job to the curb. Shuffle, 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 click, 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 shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And I completely didn't know. I'm now going to have to apologize to Matt, to everybody next year, and until the end of time. It just didn't occur to me that I was doing something like that. It didn't make any sense to me that could possibly be happening. So that's the long way of saying, I find out what you want, and then I give it to you. because why else are we here? So my ask today, the theme today in this particular video is my lead in. And this is what I'm asking from you. It's not that I want a testimonial, although they're lovely. It's that I need comments from people who see this video. I need written comments more than, hey, Abby, love your thing. I need to be able to quote the comments to the people who are deciding who they want to hire as a speaker this year, who they want to have come and elevate their crowd, pull them out of their kind of funk, to get them excited again, to get them having fun again. And I mean, I can say I can do it, and I have pictures that say I can do it. But I got to tell you, the actual comments from people who have seen me, who follow me, who go to my events, if you will say what happens to you when you come to my booth, to my event, to my show, to my whatever I stage and have been staging over the years, if you say, this is why you need her, this is why I will buy a ticket to the next one and the next one and the next one. And why am I asking you to do that? Because this is the new chapter in my life. The new chapter in my life is a blend. I'm bringing my comedy, and I'm bringing my humanity, and I'm bringing my care and attention and my training as somebody who understands what it means to feel unheard, unseen, and undervalued. I'm bringing all of that to the table to help you get your sea legs back, to help you say, well, that's better. Thanks, Ab. That's the plan. And when I came up with the idea, it was just before COVID. I called it Pivotry in motion. Now, a pivot is a hard turn. Everybody knows what a pivot is. What almost no one pays attention to is that it doesn't stick unless you have already changed your mind. You have hit a wall of some kind. And what you were allowing yourself to say over and over, it's not that bad, it's not that bad, all of a sudden, it is. All of a sudden, it's not good enough. All of a sudden, you deserve different. And it happens somewhere in the connection between the thinking brain and the emotional brain. They fuse. You can hear it, you can feel it. Sometimes somebody actually makes this noise, and I know that it's shifted. And I've used this technique for decades, and nothing has failed when I do it. And I thought, this is my time to blend how I perform and how I change people's point of view with them, how I offer them a different concept, a different perspective, a different set of choices. And I do it with my comedy, and I do it with my training, and I do it with my mentoring, and I do it with my writing, and I do it in person. And I have missed doing live shows. I've been away from live shows for too long, and I'm ready with new content, new material, and an incredible team of speakers for when we do our, you've heard of TED and you've heard of TEDx. This is TED Y. Why is it always just TED? We're going to be doing the panel talks where the audience is involved. So all of these amazing plans and schemes are unfolding in real time. And as August hits its midpoint and people are coming back and saying, I got to get back on track, I'm the one who's ready saying, I've got something new. I'd like to show it to you. And how I want to do that with impact, I want to do that with you, through you. I'm counting on you. So I've also learned to do something rather amazing in doing my Sunday ABCASTs, and that is being more concise. I am doing these 5-minute reels on Sunday, surprise. And I've realized that possibly this hour or this 45 minutes is more than people feel comfortable with. It's like a short book is easier to read than a long book, which is why for Susan, for example, we have this amazing book, but we chunked it into 5 small books so that people could read it and feel like they were achieving something, right, Susan? So this is my ask for you. Now I always have a story to share, and so at the beginning I share this story of me walking around, walking into a contest and hijacking it. But the other thing I want to share with you is something that happened a long time ago, and I thought it was a very brave thing. Uh, there is a process in the theater world called fringe theater. And fringe is where people inexpensively can try out new content. So it doesn't cost you a lot to get your show in the fringe. And you're not allowed to charge big money for tickets. And people understand that what they're looking at are works in progress. So when I was on television and I was, working on new material, I would do a fringe show. And just to remind people that I'm still around, I'm not just a television person or a radio person. I would trot these things out and do them. And I was out there on opening night with a new show, and I had created the show. It was sketch comedy, and it was called Gloves Off. And I had done it because I knew, as an insider, I knew that You Can't Do That on Television was coming to an end, and I wanted to remind people that before You Can't Do That, I was Abby. And since Mom wore gloves, the idea of the fringe show Gloves Off was that this was me, for real, my stuff. And fringe is very basic. It's basically a black curtain that separates you and everybody. And you have 5 minutes to set up and 5 minutes to tear down. Really primitive. Anyway, I'm behind the black curtain, and I heard a man say, "You're going to love this. We come to every single one of Abby Haggard's shows." And I just, before a show, you're very, very high energy. You're very, very high. You're trying to manage your adrenaline to keep yourself, on an even level. And so you're a little this, right? I heard him say that, and I stopped dead, and I thought, A, thank you. But also, there's a brave person. They brought people. They brought people saying, "You're going to love it," based on the last one. Well, this is new stuff. Nobody'd seen it. I hadn't shown it to anybody. And then I thought, oh, good, no pressure. But then I thought, wrong. Ah, good. All the pressure. Because they're excited not to see me, to see me again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is what all of our lasting relationships are based on. An eagerness, a willingness, a decision consciously made to get in the boat and pick up the oar and say, "I'm in," and mean it. This is what our relationships are created on. This is what our connections and our engagement and our transformations are part of. This is why we always see the same show. We always hire the same act. We always do the same format. Eventually loses audiences. At the end of this last show, the one where I upstaged the contest, the organizer, Lance Moran, he reached out to me and he said, "I don't understand what it is that you do." Because, any other celebrity, if I booked them show after show consecutively, they would lose. They would lose momentum. They would lose interest. But every year you bring something different. But you also, there's new people. There's more people. People come back. They want to see you again. What is it you do? And my first part of the answer was, well, I'm lovely. But the other answer is, well, Lance, it's not about me. The reason they come is because they know it's about them. And this is what we all forget. When we are in a relationship and we say, oh, it's us, we're together. If we don't go into the relationship saying, I'm bringing my best because this experience is worth it. If I invest my best, I get the best. This is not give to you endlessly. No, this is bring my best. If you're going to make a cake, now, so Susan and I went through hell, sideways, upside down, backwards, inside out, and through, getting her books done while she was, as she says, a single mom, while she was back in school, while COVID was on, and she had to learn how to homeschool. And she had 3 young men who didn't want to. You know, when I do shows for people who consciously and deliberately buy a ticket, it's because they want to come. When my friend Carol Hay was teaching, she was teaching to audiences who didn't want to come because they were forced to come. It's a whole different experience. And so when we know deeply that by bringing our best and enjoying the hell out of it ourselves, it's contagious. All emotion is contagious. All excitement, all anticipation, all purpose, all vision is contagious. And as Eddie was saying, you know, Eddie went through hell, and as he's saying, I let you purge and then navigate and unload and download and breathe, and I gave him tools that my clients pay for, and I do, thank you, Freddie, bring my A game. I bring it because the moment deserves it. I bring it because the shared experience deserves it. And what I am asking today, all of you beautiful, lovely people who watch me live, and I love you to bits, and the people who watch later, I'm asking for your foundational comments. Picture a blueprint. We need to see the blueprint before we can decide on the cushions and the curtains and the tiles. I need to show people who haven't seen me in a while, who've only heard about me. I need them to understand what it's like to experience the moment. Susan came to a book launch. Susan brought her friends. Susan drove up from Massachusetts to our book launch. Susan watched the most extraordinary things unfold at that book launch. She watched veterans with PTSD bring their dogs and not leave. She watched my backstage crew upstage the photo shoot. She watched artists draw you in moments. She was right there with me for it. And she came away and said, I want to do that someday with you. And I said, well, let's plan on it. Let's make it happen. And we haven't got there yet, but we will. So with that said, here we are. It's 10:28. I have 2 minutes to wrap, and I will have done this in half an hour. I can't believe it. I want to say this to you. Without these videos watched by you, connecting us, engaging us, transforming how we know each other, without these videos giving me proof that this thing I'm doing has legs, that has a place to go and a purpose. These would be rehearsals. This would be me just in my office, in my little corner of the world, talking to myself. I have to tell you, in the last years before I came back, it was a tough time. I was shepherding someone to a doorway, and it wasn't easy. It was hell for him. It was not a circus for me. Months and months and months of hospital visits, and suddenly you stop. And all the legal and all the financial and all the machinations and all the pick up and move and sell this and move that and walk away was hard. And what kept me solid and what kept me up and looking forward was knowing that I was going to do a video every Tuesday and Thursday morning, because I had made that promise to me and you. So thank you. It means everything. Sorry. One more minute. Be good to you. You deserve it. Remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. And I will catch you next time.